Well, good evening, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's Saturday, February 15th, 2025, about 8:30 in the evening. And as you can tell, I'm coming to you from my living room on the small screen. And got another update video for you. It's a Bigfoot video, and it's going to be a continuation of the last one that I shot a few days ago when I was over in Quartzsite. So I'm not going to start at the beginning here. So my suggestion would be, if you haven't watched that one yet, go ahead and pause this one and go watch that one. I made it while I was sitting in my truck over where we were camped at Quartzsite about some stuff that happened there, and this is kind of a continuation of that. So anyway, let me pick up kind of where I left off, and the last one I talked about. My friend up in Utah, and he'd been having quite a bit of contact with a 39-year-old female named Jolene. And Jolene lives in Idaho, and she's a communicator, and she reaches out to, I don't know how many humans she actually talks to, but she actually has talked to my friend, and she actually talked to me. And kind of the long-range communications network they have that they use. And so anyway, at the end of that last video, I had mentioned that my friend had said that he was invited Jolene and also invited Lewis and Lewis's family, who live up in the mountains close to him, to kind of come on board and watch the Super Bowl through his eyes, and that he would explain to him about football and how football worked. And originally he was going to go to a Super Bowl party at somebody's house or something, and his wife wasn't really feeling up to snuff, so they decided to sit home and watch it at home. So he's got Jolene and Lewis and who all knows who else that are there watching the game with him, and he's kind of giving them a rundown. He's being the commentator and explaining how all this stuff worked. Well, I don't know how interested they were in the sport aspect of it, but one of the incidents that happened that was pretty funny is there was a commercial for Totino's Pizza Rolls. And the name of the commercial was called Chasmo Goes Home, or Chasmo Finally Goes Home. And you can look it up on YouTube, but Totino's Pizza Rolls has a YouTube channel, if you didn't see it. But the premise of it was there was a little hairy kind of green alien with big eyes, space alien, and he was there and he liked the Totino's Pizza Rolls. And they were kind of giving him a hard time about how he ate them all. And so he, in the process of going back on his ship, he's standing in the doorway, and the doorway closes, and unfortunately does him in. And well, Jolene saw that commercial, and she was really, really upset over that commercial. Well, my friend had to explain to her that was not really, Chasmo was not a real individual, not a real entity or a person of any kind. That was a computer-generated animation. And that he actually had to show her his laptop and said they make them on these machines. And he's not real. He's just a simulation. Well, he finally got her calmed down, but she was pretty upset for a while about that. Well, Jolene's been kind of hanging around him quite a bit, and he's been inviting her, as he invites Lewis, if he's going to go someplace, to come with him. And he actually invited her to go along to his office. And so anyway, today, let me sidebar for a second. So from today, I was sitting here in my chair in the afternoon, and I got a tingle. And I've been getting, in the last video, I mentioned about hearing about one who called himself Ross. And I asked Ross what his real name was, and he gave me a visual of his real name. And it was like 20 characters long, and no way in the world, he didn't leave it up there long enough for me to try to even memorize it or try to figure out how to pronounce it. But that's why they use the short nicknames. And we'd always thought they did that. But that was confirmation to me that, yes, they do that. So anyway, today I was sitting here, and I got the tingle, and I responded back. And it was a 47-year-old male named Rutger. And Rutger was from Southeast Ohio. And I actually asked him, I said, are you anywhere near Salt Fork State Park in Ohio, because that's well known for Sasquatch activity. And he said, yeah, he was in that general area. So I had a little bit of a back and forth with Rutger today, and that was just out of the blue, and just kind of like a ham radio operator reached out to see if he could talk to somebody, and I happened to be the one there. Well, then later on this evening, my friend from Utah texted me and asked me if I got time to talk because Jolene's on board with him. And so, yeah, that's great. So I gave him a phone call. And we sat and talked for some time with a three-way conversation with he and I on the phone and Jolene there. And I was actually able to ask Jolene some questions. Well, he also told me that he had been contacted once again by a male. I believe he was, I don't remember the age now, but anyway, by a male, and he called himself John. And that he lived, the visual he gave him was kind of like a Google Earth view. And he said he wasn't quite sure whether it was north or south of the Canadian border, but he thought it was someplace either like northeast Montana, northwestern North Dakota, or possibly up in Alberta. So he wasn't quite sure exactly, but that same general area. And that's where this John was from. Well, he remembered what I had told him about the real names. And so he came right out and told John, he asked John, he says, I'm sure that's not your real name. What is your real name? And so this John gave him a visual of what his real name was. And once more, my friend says, yeah, it was probably 15 characters long, and he only left it up there for a short period of time, and he tried to figure out how to pronounce it, and he couldn't figure out how to pronounce it. So that's further confirmation of what we'd originally been thinking for quite some time. And that was two confirmations of that in a fairly short period of time. So then, anyway, we're talking to Jolene, and well, this John, my friend also asked him how he heard about him, how John heard about my friend. And it turns out that there's another one lives up that general area named Rohan that my friend had been in contact with, and this John knows Rohan. And so that's how he found out about him. Well, anyway, we're talking to Jolene, and I'm asking Jolene a couple of questions about some stuff, and I invited her to come down and visit with me, so anyway, we asked Jolene if, first of all, if she knew John, and she said she did, and my friend, he's been told that there's something major going to happen involving him. He doesn't know what it is yet. He's got some hints, but he doesn't know what it is yet. But he's wondering if maybe they're going to allow him to, I don't know, go to the next level, if you will, or however that works. And he had a very, very powerful entity that was at his house here a few nights ago. And the ones there that live by him, they are not at liberty to talk about it. They've apparently been told not to tell him what's going on. Jolene has told him a little bit about it, and so he said he's both excited and terrified at the same time over what's possibly going to happen, because they've kind of invited him to a gathering, and he's not even sure how he's supposed to attend to go to this thing. And we know where it's going to be at. We don't know exactly when, and I'm not going to say, but it's some distance from where he lives. And he had asked Jolene, how am I going to go there? Am I going to go there by portal? And she kind of indicated that yes, he was. So he's, it'd be pretty exciting if this happens like we kind of think that's going to happen. But in the process of talking about that, we were talking about that. I've had some pretty powerful elders or some. Felt real powerful presence in my house several different times. And a couple of times I actually got them to talk to me and tell me who they were, and sometimes they haven't. But it's probably happened, the last 2-3 years, it's probably happened half a dozen times. And a couple of names that I've gotten is I got the female elder, and her name was Quintessa. and that she was a member of the Gan. She was of the Gan, which means that she's one of the mountain spirits, the Gan. And it's obviously she was an elder, and but you know, and I have a lot of respect for them. I'm not going to ask a female member of the Gan how old she is. I'm just not going to do it. And when I was telling my friend from Utah about that, well, Jolene popped in there, and she said that she knows Quintessa, and Quintessa is 94. Well, I thought that was kind of cool. Well, another one that had talked to me, and his name was Quillat, and I'd asked Quillat how old he was, and he'd given me a quick visual of the road sign, like on the Pacific Coast Highway in Oregon, and it's 101, and that was the way he kind of showed me. It was in this form of a road sign that he was 101, and so that was a couple of years ago. So he's 103 now. But anyway. And I asked Jolene if she knew Quillat, and she did. My friend from Utah says, I think Jolene knows everybody. And so anyway, I had a comment on that last video, and from a guy, and I'm not quite, his name's Charlie, and he says it on his video, so I guess I can use his name. And anyway, I'm not sure where Charlie lives, but I went back and checked his channel. And he's apparently an airplane-related guy. I don't know if he's a pilot or what, but he's got airplane videos on his channel, and he talks about Illinois. So I kind of think it's probably northern Illinois somewhere, but I don't know that for sure. But anyway, Charlie had commented that when he was watching my last video, and I was talking about them coming on board and seeing things through our eyes and hearing things through our ears and smells and tastes and everything. And I said that I don't know how they do that. Well, he has one that he referred to as his neighbor, and he said that when he was watching that video when I said that, and I believe it was at the 11-minute and 22-second mark, he said he got a message from his neighbor, and his neighbor told him that they don't know how they do it either. They can just do it, and they have no idea how they do it, but they can do it, and. Anyway, his neighbor's name is Lantor, and so that comments under that last video. You can go look it up. Well, I remembered that, and I have not responded back to Charlie yet. Charlie, if you watch this, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just behind on answering comments. But anyway, so I asked Jolene through my friend. I said, you know, I got this comment in this last video. Do you by any chance know Lantor? And she did. Once again, my friend says, I think Jolene knows everybody. So anyway, so then I asked her if she knew Rutger. Well, yeah, she knows Rutger. Well, anyway, so that ties kind of all together with stuff that happened today. Well, then afterwards, I, during the course of the conversation, I invited Jolene to come down and visit with me. And so after my friend and I hung up the phone, about 10 minutes later, I get this solid zap, and it's Jolene, and she's down here. And now she's on board with me. And I was just walking out the door. So I invited her to come along with me, and I went over to the museum. And I started up the museum's old fire truck and ran it. I've tried to run it every couple of weeks. And there were some people there that were watching it. And I had a lady blow the siren and all this kind of stuff. Well, I obviously wouldn't tell them what was going on. But Jolene was on board, and she was experiencing all this. And then I guess then she was gone. I don't know. She had other things to do, I guess, and went back up with my friend from Utah. But anyway, so Jolene was down here, and she was on board with me for a little bit when I was starting the old fire truck. And so that was all kind of cool. So that brings you up to date on just stuff that's happened in the last few days. And and there's some more, but the conversation today, and then talking a three-way conversation with Jolene and asking her questions and having her answer me. And this stuff that's happening with my friend from Utah, and like I say, he's not quite sure what's going to happen, and they've apparently been told not to tell him too much because they won't tell him, and we trust them implicitly, and we don't think they're going to harm us in any way. So we're just going to have to see where that leads. And but I'll bring it to you as soon as I find that out. But I thought I would take a few minutes tonight and kind of bring you up to date on some of this kind of interesting stuff now, because now it's we've been having them reach out and talk to us from all over the place. And my friend I talked to in my post yesterday morning, I talked about my friend named Elle, and she's had some long distance communication as well from a female Sasquatch named Fern up in British Columbia. But that's her story to tell, and so she's told me all about that, and that's kind of interesting. And I had the communication from Naya, who lives over where Elle actually lives, east of here, and there's something going on over there too, and I'm not quite sure what that is as well, but I talked about it a little bit in a post. So anyway, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm keeping it under 20 minutes. So let me tell you, as I always do, take care of each other and love each other, and thank the good Lord for the life He's given you, because it's fascinating. And I'm going to try to get this uploaded tonight. And so for right now, I think I'll leave you as I always do and just tell you until we talk again. Peace out.